not about being perfect. It's about being authentic. It's about being okay with the good, bad, and ugly. To accept those things about ourselves that we can't change, and those things that need to be changed, we put on our big girl panties and do the work. Be true to you is about being real with God, being real with self, so we can be true to you. Be true to you is not about competing with one another. We're about complementing one another. Angela, welcome to the Be True to You Talk Show. Hey, before we get started, you know what to do. Go ahead, like, share, and what? Like, share, and invite your mama, your sister, your brother. Invite everybody. They want to be here tonight. Now, you know it's February, right? So we're talking about two things. We're talking about love, and we're going to be talking about Black history the next 2 Mondays of this month. You know, we're here every Monday at 7 p.m. Thank you again for being a part of the show. You know, we cannot do it without you. Now, with all that being said, we have this awesome, phenomenal couple with us today that I am so excited about having a conversation with them. I'm excited that they said yes. They did not find it robbery to come and sit with me and talk about their business. Because we're going to talk about their business, your business, my business, everybody's business. We're going to just talk about business. Anyway, let's welcome my guests today to the show. We have Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Hall, Desiree and Eddie Hall. Hello, couple of the year. How you guys doing today? Are you guys frozen? Hello.
Hey,
Oh
how
my
you
God.
doing?
Okay, there you go. Hello. Welcome to the
Hi,
show. Thank you for
thank
Thank you
you
saying
for
for
yes.
having
having
us.
us.
You know, I couldn't wait to have you guys. I should have had you guys a long time ago. Actually, I felt that we should have connected years ago, but nevertheless, we're not going to cry over spilled milk. We're here and we're going to do it tonight. We're going to let God use your marriage, my marriage, and anybody else's marriage today. So before we go on, please do me a favor and introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, hi, everybody. I am Desiree Hall of Real Love Ministries. You going to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Eddie Hall of Real Love Ministries as well.
And before we get started, Angela, I just want to thank you so much for considering us and inviting us on. I know it has been a long time coming, but thank God we're here. And I am just so excited. Real Love Ministries got started way back in 2000, I believe. Yes, 2000. So we started off as a mentorship group for girls. And I'm telling you, God just did a miraculous thing because during that time, my husband and I, we were combating. We were married, but we weren't all that well. Okay, the marriage was a little sick.
Mhm.
So we just started a prayer group for these young girls and then for families, and it just kind of spent off from there, and it transitioned, God transitioning this to a whole marriage ministry.
Okay, so when you first got, okay, thank you again for sharing that with us. Real Love Ministry, I've had the opportunity to experience Real Love Ministry. You couple event you had, and I think one year you featured Woody and I as far as I don't know what you call it, but it was one of your love couples that you featured us. So thank you for that.
Yes, couple of the month.
Couple of the month, yeah, that was. I think we were married 20 years then. And right now we're working on 27 years. Um,
Awesome.
November 2nd will be 27 years for us. How long have you guys been married?
We've been married. Go ahead.
Well, we've been married 24 years. June 27 will make 25. We've been together 27.
7 years.
Okay, June 27th, that's my daughter's birthday. Bless y'all heart. Yeah. And so I hear that the Real Love Ministry didn't necessarily start out for couples. You said you started out as for as young ladies?
Right. It was actually a mentorship girl for young ladies that were transitioning from the high school into that young lady stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't want those young ladies to get lost in the shuffle because sometimes, in high school, after high school is like, okay, what's next for me? It's very fearful. Like, what do I do next? Where do I go? How do I handle myself in the real world? So, Real Love Ministries help transition these young ladies from middle school, high school into their young adulthood.
Okay. And so here's the thing, you guys have been in ministry forever. But in the midst of being in ministry, you guys struggle in your marriage. Were you guys in ministry together when you first got married, or you guys met and started going on to the same ministry?
Go ahead.
Well, actually, we was raised in the same church. Um, I'm 6 years older than her, so she always like to tell everybody that I'm older than her.
And you
So
is.
we actually grew up in the same church. I went away to school and came back home, and that's how I was able to notice her and get to know her. But other than that, we pretty much were raised in the same ministry.
Okay, so that your story is different from mine. You guys was raised in the same ministry, so you knew of each other for years, all of your childhood in a sense. My husband and I, we dated for 5 months before we said I do. But I
Wow.
dated him for 3.5 years. He was my son's barber because I was married before him. And so he was my kid's barber for 3.5 years. He never asked me on a date, never said anything except for how you want me to help that. And I would tell him, and that was it. So one day, out of nowhere, he was like, "You want to go to the movies?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And from that point on, as far as that night, and 5 months later, we was married, and we've been together now, been going 27 years. How long did you guys date, or should I say, Eddie? When did you know she was the one to say, "I do"? Will you marry me too?
Well, it took a while. I think
That's about a year.
we dated for maybe a year and a half
Hmm.
before I actually popped the question. But it was when we first, well, first of all, let me back up. When I met her, I had just came out of a bad relationship, so she caught me at a point where I was in a dark place at that time, and it got to a point where I was able to really just talk to her a little bit, and she really helped me get from a dark place into seeing a place where I can see, okay, I can continue to go forward. So it took about a year and a half. Actually, we be transparent. We were more, as like she said, we were more lovers to friends instead of friends to lovers.
Oh, okay. Now, I read in your book that you talked about you were before you guys said I do, you guys used to have laughter together. You guys used to have long conversations. So I see where the conversation came from when he said you was helping him through the dark places. But all of a sudden when you got married, you said you it did like a 360. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand where that love went, where the laughter went, where the conversation late hours went. What happened? Is it that you didn't date enough or you didn't know enough for each other? What caused it to shift? And then not only that, how fast did it shift?
Well, it didn't shift that early in our
Maybe I
marriage.
would say like a year and a half after
Year and
we
a
got
half to
that.
year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what really happens is many a time when we're in the dating process, we always put on our best.
Mhm.
We already got presentation always 100%. The camouflage is on, so you really don't get to really know a person.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter for me if you've been dating for 5 to 10 years. Sometimes it gets to a point where you have to learn how to take the mask off. And many times we'll
Mhm.
go into a relationship and showing a different side of the individual. And I think what really happened was, even though she found me in a dark place, I still had my guards up. So I was in the point of stage of, if this don't even work out, I'm okay with it if it
Mhm.
doesn't work out, because I still have my guards up and didn't want to get hurt again. And if I did get hurt, I feel that I was strong enough to be able to, walk away from it as well. So many times I put my best foot forward, everything looked the part, but I still was had some issues. I still had some parts that was not delivered, wasn't really talked about. Didn't want to share my real dark secrets, my real dark clouds and dark parts of my life. Even though even though you can give part of what you're going through,
Mhm.
but until you be transparent and really tell the whole story, sometimes you can hold on to it and you'll find yourself changing, because any given day you can have a good day, you can have a bad day, you can have a day that you want to succeed, and then you can have a day where if I don't succeed, it is what it is. And I think that was my biggest problem was.
Yeah, I like that. We're gonna let you comment on that in a minute, Desiree. But I like that as far as you're truthful, right? And you can't get too many men to come out and be honest as far as, hey, this is the issue from my perspective as far as what I could have did different. Now you and I were different. When I married my husband, I had an older sister who used to tell my husband, "Oh, she's so mean. She's so mean. Why would you marry her? She's so mean." But that's only because she loved him and me as well. But in the midst of that, because people had not, she wasn't the only one. Everybody was telling him that I was so mean. And I guess in a sense I was mean at that time because I was going through things. I wasn't happy with life where it was. Even though I had gave my life to Christ, I was still going through some things. And so since they told him I was mean, I figured, well, if he think I'm mean, I might as well show him what mean look like so he can hurry up and leave. And
Oh,
so I didn't show my true self in a sense too because I showed the worst part of me. And the idea that he was able to deal with the worst part of me, eventually life softened me. And then he started getting the better version of me. But I didn't give him that at first. Desiree, did you give the whole you, the truth for you, all of you, nothing but all of you to him?
I think I did. I think I always been who I am today. And just to back up a little bit, not only was he in a relationship, Eddie also was married before. So many people don't know I'm his second wife. So and like he said, he went through a lot. He went through a lot, and we came from two different worlds. For one thing, although we grew up in the same church, Eddie ended up at that church at the age of 12 from his neighbor. His neighbor went to our church, and she was like one of the mothers that brought the neighborhood to church. And so from 12 years old, it started to be instilled in him. However, I was born in this whole thing. I can tell you the ins and outs, the front and the back about church.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very different. Now, like I said in the book, once we got married or dating, it was all good. See, I was girl. I was left in the house. Now, I had a baby also. By the time yes, I had a baby out of wedlock, and we're a blended family. And when even though I had a baby, I was still what would you call it? Served or covered in the house. Didn't know too much,
Mhm.
right?
You still had an innocent about you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So when he came along and my parents allowed him to date me and take me out, I was having me a good time. He was treating me nice, my knight in shining armor and all of that good stuff. So when he asked me to marry him, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm down with that. And we did, yeah, we were more lovers to friends, but we did have those intimate conversations in
Let me
those
let me
moments.
stop you right there. Let me ask you a question. Did you guys get married? Because this is what I find in the kingdom. A lot of time we get married because we don't want to die and go to hell. We get married because we don't want to burn. And a lot of times we know that the relationship, not your case, not my case, but sometimes we get married just because we don't want to be sinful. We want to be have what we call legal sex. Did you have one of those concerns as far as the reason why you said I do so quickly, or was you truly in love with him? Or Eddie, did you say um, will you marry me because you didn't want it? You wanted to have legal sex?
No,
No,
Oh,
no,
good.
not
because we
at all.
because we was already
We was already
sexually.
having that.
To be frank with you, we was been there,
No,
done that. We did that.
yeah, that was already happening.
It was
Yes, and actually, when we did get married, we already had a baby.
And I think
okay.
one of the thing was with us, even though we kind of growed up in the same church, um, my issue was I always had fun, always wanted to have fun, But the problem was my upbringing. I
Hmm.
grew up with a father and a mother in the household, but I grew up in a household where they would cuss, they would fuss, and they would have fights with each other.
Hmm.
So even though I want to have fun, and she comes from a home that's very wholesome, very prayerful, and stuff like that. So it's two worlds clashing against each other. So I'm having fun, but the moment when I get upset, I goes back to what I was brought up looking at. So my happiness and then when I get angry, my voice goes up a whole lot louder because that's what I seen at home. My father
Hmm.
used to yell, my mom used to yell. So I was raised that way. So when I was lashing out on her and being loud with her, this is nothing that she ever witnessed in her home as well. Her and her mother and father, they always went in the bedroom and had their heated arguments with the door closed. In my household, we had indoors, outdoors, in the yard, backyard, front
Wow.
yard. It
Yeah.
doesn't
In the
matter where
street.
it was, in the street, down the street, they was yelling at each other. So that's all I ever seen was that.
Uh huh. Uh huh. That is true. When you come from different worldview, it could cause a problem, right? Because just because we've seen it done doesn't necessarily mean it's right. And so that's something, you got two different worlds coming together, and I can see is this is what causes the confusion and the separation. This is how it started as far as the loud talking.
Right. And let me tell you, right, y'all, he wasn't abusive to me now. He wasn't abusive.
No.
However, he had a very, very quick temper.
But
Very quick
I
temper.
think the problem is, and what we try to tell a lot of couples is, when we was dating, we never dated in a season. And what I mean by that, she always seen my best. And so
Mhm.
what happened is, a lot of us get into relationships and get into dating, and we never date in seasons. The same person who laugh and joke with you when everything is good, what happens when he loses his job or have a bad
I
day at work?
I
And,
like
and the
that.
guy then the guy who raised in the church, and you see him with his hands lifted up because he worshiping God, but when things go against him at work or against him in
In
life,
life.
that
Hmm.
same hand that was up raising and praising God, that could be the same hand that turn around and want to slap you in your face as well.
Mhm.
So
I
sometimes we
like
have
that
to
as
date
far
in
as
seasons.
seasoning. I like
Yeah,
that. You don't look at that, because when you get married, you be in that love bliss, right? All you see is
right.
happiness. You don't even think about life after marriage, right? All we think about is the wedding. We don't think about
Exactly.
there's a marriage after the wedding, right? We don't think about there's two people coming together to make a union after the wedding. And so I can just see that being a problem. And we're blended family. Eddie and I have a lot in common. I've been married before. Woody have never been married before. And so, it's different, but
Right.
um, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was like, even prior to getting married, we did some type of wedding, what is it called? Counseling.
Counseling.
I mean, it wasn't nothing long and extensive or anything of that sort. But we did had a sense of marriage counseling, but it still didn't prepare me for what was getting ready to happen, because I thought I was able to handle it, because that's what he showed me. I knew this man was going to take care of me. He was going to make me happy. I had no worries, and yada yada yada. And then later on, oh my gosh, I said, this little thing here got a temper.
Mm,
And he cussed it. Oh no, not in this house, not in front of our children.
mhm.
No way. I wouldn't have it. I say, listen, you took me from my parents' home. I wasn't bothering you. You took me from my parents' home.
Okay, so she's saying that he took her from her parents' home, and hopefully they'll come back in. When you marry someone, it's so different as far as okay, he took you from your parents' home.
Oh, okay. So he took from my parents' home, and that's what I told him. I said, wait, you took me from my parents' home. I didn't come looking for you. I didn't ask for you. You asked for me. So you need to man up, because he started cursing when he got upset. Just acting very unseemly, and I was not used to all of that. And then in front of the children. And so our children played as referees. I think I wrote that in the book. The children played as referees because they didn't want to see their parents arguing and fighting and all of this, you know.
Hmm.
And my mom had to sit down and have a talk with me, like, look, this is not fair to them.
Hmm.
I don't care what y'all go through, do not do it in front of them. And from that day forth, I made it up in my mind, if I needed to argue with you or fuss and fight, I'm taking the kids to mama house, and we gonna get it.
Yeah, I came from a family that, my mom and my dad, they had the issue. Now they fought physically, but they didn't do too much yelling. And so I wasn't used to being yelled at either. I'm extremely tone sensitive. My
Mhm.
husband, on the point, he came from a place where he expressed himself through yelling. And I remember saying, you got one more time to yell at me and I'm going to leave you. And that's because I felt like God wouldn't let me yell back because I can yell. I don't been in a situation that I can yell. I don't been in a situation where I'll fight you. But I believe God saved me from that point when He gave me Woody or gave Woody to me. And I like to say God gave me Woody to show me how much He loved me. And give and take. People don't like it. I don't know. I'm not putting it too high. I just know what God did for me by allowing Him to ask me to be His wife. And so he used to yell, and I did not like that. I wanted to fight him, but God would not let me fight him. And
Mhm.
so How was you able to deal with the yelling? Did it feel like God was allowing you to be broken? Did you feel like you was being misused? And we're going to talk about this book too, you guys. We're a co-author of this book. We both wrote a chapter in this book, and I love her chapter. Talk about how you can overcome and not listen to the naysayers. And so we're going to talk about that too. That you don't listen to the naysayers, because the naysayer had already cast y'all to the side and said it wasn't going to work.
Oh yes, oh yes. Let me tell you, I can tell you plenty of stories. We're even surprised ourselves. We ask each other all the time, like, "Gosh, you believe that we are still together?"
No, no, no.
But it's only by the grace of God, and how I see one. And then let me go back. I jumped in the cab late one night, going back home to my mama house, and she sent me right back the next morning.
I believe you. I caught myself being mad at Woody one day, and I told him, "Drop me off my mama house." And my mom, she was like, you don't never leave your house."
Yeah.
She was like, "What time you going home? Like, you can't stay here because you don't leave your house." And I've learned that when I counsel people, I always say, when you're mad, you stay in the house. You never leave your house, because that gives the enemy opportunity to play and make you think the grass is greener on the other side. And
Exactly.
we learned from my husband. I like to tell people this all the time. If I offend anybody, I apologize. My husband said the only reason why the grass look greener on the other side, because it have a lot of maneuver in it. But he said,
The
Yeah,
What
yeah,
other.
yeah.
did you say, babe?
Yeah.
He said, "Most sugar, honey, iced tea." And so this is what makes it look like it's greener than what it is. And so you got to make sure you stay in the house, because if you don't stay in the house, the enemy will make you think that what you got is not worth fighting for.
Yeah, amen. That's
Mm,
and that's the God honest truth. I was just like, I could do bad by myself. I don't need nobody here helping me. But
mhm.
I will say everything that I've experienced in my marriage, it pushed me closer to God.
Mhm.
And
Tell us about it.
I grew up in a church, like I said, but I never had that experience, that relationship with God. So when I came back home, I had to deal with him. I had to deal with it. And I was like, God, if you are really real, like I have heard them testify, as I heard about you, I need you in this situation. I want
Mhm,
to do the right thing. I want to stay married to my husband, but all the yelling, cursing, and going back and forth in front of the children, and the crying, it has to stop. It has
mhm,
to stop. But it put me to my knees to pray. It put me constantly before God. And it has made me the woman of God that I am today. It has made me the woman of prayer that I am today. And
mhm,
I know that God is real. I know that God answers prayers. I know who he is because I experienced it. I just didn't hear about him. I know now.
mhm,
So once God began to build me and to instruct me, I remember I was praying, and God said, "Shut up." Oh, Jesus.
mhm, mhm,
He said, I heard it so clear, "Shut up." And it was like, if you want me to do this, you need to back off.
mhm,
So my prayer sort of kind of went like this: Lord, I love him. Lord, get him though. I'm telling you, just don't kill him, God. Like show him that I'm right. I was praying the wrong way.
mhm,
And God had to show me how to, through loving kindness, have I drawn them. So God had to show me how to speak to him for
mhm,
him to respond differently. He
mhm,
said, "You're giving him what he grew up with. You're giving him what he has already known all his life. Show him that you are different." And
mhm,
God began to show me how to speak life into him, because there were certain times I felt that he felt that he didn't deserve good. He didn't deserve a good relationship. He didn't deserve a good car. He didn't deserve a good way of living. He had the money, but you remember you was always buy them little raggedy cars, and he used to always have it take it to the shop and have to get it fixed. And then one day he came home and he told me about the mechanic. Oh, the mechanic got a nice computer and that. I said, "Well, you bought it. You bought it. You keep taking your car there. We got the week." So, I had to I had to learn to
Mhm.
speak life into him, to build him up, to let him know you are worthy. You are
Mhm.
a man of God. You're going to be everything that God wants you to be.
Mhm.
And I had to start practicing that over the years, because at first I still didn't want to be humble, because I was like, I don't feel that that's my place. You older than me, you should know better. And a lot of
Mhm.
times we feel that because the man is a certain age that they
Mhm.
know better, and a lot of times they don't know. They just grew up. So
Yeah.
that's how it actually drew me closer to God.
Yeah, I'm reminded that I used to go to God and complain about Woody all the time. And I read that in your chapter that you said you used to go and complain to God about your husband. And I remember God telling me, "Don't come to me about him. Come to me about you." And then in the midst of when you go to God about you, then he'll deal with the mate. So for those that's out there looking or listening, don't go complaining to your master, to God, about your significant other, your husband, your wife. Go to God asking him to make you be the spouse that they need. And then that you will get a better result.
Yes, absolutely. Because let me tell you, as I was praying for Eddie, I realized God didn't deal with him at first. He dealt with me,
Mhm.
because I did the change. He used me, changed me to be able to speak life into him. And just for those wives that are out there, the Bible speak of how your character is. It could change your husband. You can't change nobody. Let me get that out there. You can't change anybody. Only God has the power to change an individual. But because of your character and how you carry yourself and how you speak to them, it will inspire that person to change.
Yeah, and God says it's better a man prefer to sit on the roof than to be in the house with a nagging wife.
Exactly.
And so we have to make sure that we're not that person. We're not that
Absolutely.
person. And so if you had to say anything to someone who's out there who's say they're thinking about getting married, what are some things you would like to share with them before they say I do? And then we're going to let Eddie talk about what would you say during the I do.
Oh, okay. So you want me to answer
Yeah,
what I
before.
tell?
Mhm.
I, First of all, I will honestly say to seek God in prayer and be absolutely open to what you're getting ready to hear. Because a lot of times when we're in that dating stage and it has escalated to engagement, a lot of times we do see those warning signs. We do see those red flags. But because we get so consumed with the planning and the engagement and the wedding, we miss those signs. And when we pray, we're saying that God says exactly how we're already thinking, but not necessarily. And then we think about it later, it was like, gosh, I should have listened. So I would say not only just pray, but have that open ear to hear if it's a no, and be okay with that. Sometimes it's not saying that this person is not your mate, it may not be the right time. So,
That's good.
so I would just say, pray and seek God. And then the second thing, work on you. Make sure that you are prepared as an individual. Make sure
Mhm.
that you know who you are. Make sure that you know what you're bringing to the table. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you have to correct everything, because we all have baggage. We all come with stuff and only God can clean us up.
Mhm. Mhm.
However, I don't want you to be naive or just not think that this is not me, or I can change, or the whole marriage or wedding can change me. And that's not what it is. Know who
Mhm.
you are, know, be open with who you are, and deal with who you are.
Okay, so now Eddie, I'm married. I thought I was doing what needs to be done. I thought I didn't override the warning buttons, but I'm here now. So, what make you fight? What makes you stay there to push through the worst part
I
of
think
marriage?
the moment before you say I do, I think for both individuals, prepare yourself for a funeral. And what I mean by that, prepare yourself to self die. One thing we have learned: the two must die so he can live, which is Christ Jesus. So you got to get to a point where you have yourself, your flesh die, and understanding for men, because we always talk about women supposed to submit. The Bible says for husband and wife to submit to one another,
Mm-hmm.
and to break that down, I want you to look at a waiter or a waitress. They always servicing the customer, no matter what. they honor, they benefits comes from servicing one another. You want to have a great wife, learn how to service her. You want to have a great husband, learn how to service him.
Come
And the
on.
benefit is the marriage. Just like
Mm,
we have good service from a waiter or a waitress, we always leave a good tip.
mhm.
You learn how to be able to service one another, and you do it because you love to do it. And that's the
Mhm.
thing about submission. I submitted to my wife because I love to do it. I love to service her. I love to please her. I love to be able to do things for her. And she likewise she does the same thing for me as well. And when you get to that point, understanding, you must realize that they are your best friend. Even though you have your homeboy or you have your friend girl, no one can overshadow the husband and the wife as being friends with one another. It comes a point in time. Sometimes you just gotta have pillow talk where you just lay in the bed and just let everything out. If you're not comfortable at home, sometimes you just have to take a drive. Sometimes you just gotta get to a point where you may go to another city and stay in a hotel and just be transparent to one another. We can
Mhm.
have a shut in at a hotel and we just let everything out. So we can learn how to minister to one another, build each other up. And we got to get to a point understanding that everything that's on the outside, what you see on TV, does not have to be your marriage.
That's
A lot
right.
of people fuss, a lot of people act up and stuff like that. And they say, well, child, you're going to go through this, you're going to go through that. It all depends on how you start your marriage off from the beginning. You don't
Yeah.
have to go through
Yeah.
all that where everybody else say all the negativity, all the ups and downs. If you be transparent with one another at the beginning and learn how to service and minister to one another, even in your time that you feel that you're not adequate enough to want to say, okay, I'm strong, show your weakness. And I did a thing called Let's Get Naked. And and I'm in love with a stripper. That was one of the things that I ministered at one point in time. And everybody thought I was talking about being naked. I am talking about being naked.
Yeah,
When
what your
Adam and Eve
emotion
was
with.
when Adam and Eve was
Take your
naked,
time.
it got to a point where he was able to see her scars. Sometimes you and your wife gotta stand in front of each other naked and look at the wounds and look at the scars and say, did I put that there?
Mm.
Are you healed from that broken heart? Are you
Mm.
healed from the argument, or are you still wounded? And sometimes we just got to get to a point that we just be naked with one another and see the scars and see if it's healed. Because many times it just got a scab over it, but it's still sore. It still hurts. And until
Mhm.
you can be able to get naked with one another and just say, what about this here? What about that issue that we had? Even if it was 2 years ago, are you healed from that? Because many
Mhm.
times we just pass through it, we'll just throw it under the rug, and we'll just say, okay, everything is nice, peaches and cream. And then don't get to a point that we argue, and then if we don't stick on one topic, we go all the way back to what happened 2 years ago, what happened 6 months ago. I thought you got over that. No, she
Mhm.
never got over it, or he never got over it, but it's still some wound that still has not been healed, and I'm throwing it back up in your face. And I thought you was already healed from that.
Yeah, because we don't like to deal with anything, right? We wanna put a Band-Aid on something or sweep it under the rug because it hurt to
Exactly.
deal with it, but you gotta deal with it. You know what I like too? I like how you understand. First, the Bible say, "Husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church, and he gave himself for it." You understand in order to love your wife properly, you give yourself to her. You do the things that make her happy. You put her first, and in the midst of you putting her first, she don't have a problem with submitting. And you do not have a problem with submitting to someone who cares about your needs, who put you first, and vice versa. When you put her first, she's gonna service you. When you put her first, she don't have a problem. When he put you first, you don't have a problem service him. And so I like to. I want to understand something because you say you don't have a problem with submitting to your wife, but what about these people who say, "But I'm the head of the household. I'm the man, and I'm the head of the household. I sh-
Well,
I said what I said, and you know."
I know I'm the man of the household. I know I am a man, and I don't have to throw that out. I show it every day.
Come on now.
I don't have to tell her that I am the man. I show it every day. And one thing about all the problems that I ever had, I always was family oriented. I am Mr. Mom. My kids would tell you, my kids is older. We from 13 to 31, and I still will go into a room and sit down and talk with them, as well as talk to my son and see where they are. So I always was Mr. Mom, and I always been a husband. Always was has been a provider. My problem was I had an attitude problem, and Christ had to come to me and give me an attitude check. Fatherhood was never a problem.
Mm,
A
Come
provider
on.
for your husband, I mean for my wife, was never a problem.
Mhm.
My attitude, My temper was the problem,
Yeah,
and
discipline.
and he had to put me in check. For
Yes.
the men,
I like
when you think that you are in control, sometimes you will find yourself out of control.
wow. I like how you say that. My mom used to always say that my father was a awesome father. He was like, he's a good father. He's a great father, but he don't know how to be a good husband. And so it's everything has to be done in decent and order, and everything have to have
It's two different
balance.
roles, and men must understand that father and husband are two different roles.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can be great in one, and you can be weak in the other.
Come on.
But you
Yeah.
ask God to show you how to be strong in both.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so in the midst of you doing the yelling, so it sounds like I'm not, I know you're not, it takes two to make a marriage, and I know not one person is wrong, but in the midst of your shortcoming, which was screaming and yelling, Desiree, your shortcoming was what? You didn't have the patience to deal with it?
Yes, I didn't have the patience to deal with it, and my mouth. So it's like uh, I never in my life fought anybody, honestly, not physically fought. I pretty much was okay. I was pretty good. But this man here, I was ready to fight him. I was ready. I was getting up in his face. It was my mouth. It was my mouth that I had to actually control. And when I say discipline, God had to both discipline both of us. We had to learn self control. And like Eddie
And
said,
and
if
I'm not. I don't want to cut her off because I don't want you to think that it was her mouth. And I'm going to be transparent for men. And I think the problem is the thing that God honors, which is marriage. The enemy will make you feel that it's a hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem was is not how she's talking to you because she can talk with a very low but firm, and the enemy will make you feel that you're being attacked. And
Mm-hmm.
right,
sometimes I
right,
don't care if it's loud, I don't care if it's a what God has honored, the enemy will always make it seem like it's a hindrance. And that's why you hear a lot of men say, I don't been raised by my mother. She's not trying to be your mother. She's trying to be your helpmate. And what we
Mm.
got to find out from hear the helpmate and don't hear the mother.
Mm.
hey, you think you my mama, huh? And I'm like, honey, listen. If I wanted the little boy, I would have married the little boy. I thought I
See,
married a man.
he said to you, "You think you your mama?" I used to tell my husband, "You ain't my daddy. You ain't my daddy. You ain't my daddy." And he was just like Eddie said. He was really the homemaker. He took care of the kids. He took the kids to school. He took him to the doctor. He did everything, but at the same time, even in that, it took years for me to appreciate the type of man he was. Because I'm reminded what you said, Desiree. He felt like he did. You think he felt like he didn't deserve better, right? I
Right.
had been through so many relationships. Surely this could not be the real him, and so I had a problem allowing him to love me the way he was trying to love me.
Exactly. And exactly what you said, that was Eddie. That was Eddie. And it was difficult to really break that mold. I was like, I don't know who told you that you wasn't good enough growing up. Also, he was dark skinned, and I know he brought that up one time too about being real dark skinned, and people pick on you and say different things of that sort. But listen, you got a woman that always loved a dark skinned man. So I don't know who told you what, but I had to learn. And I know you, honey, you were sticking up for me. Thank you so much. But
Yes,
but
he was. He was
yes,
like my baby don't yell now. She not aggressive now.
but I had to learn on what to say, how to say it, how to articulate it. And that was something too that I did not want to do because I felt that he should have known all of this already.
Mhm,
I'm listen, I'm your second wife. I'm new at this. You're not new at this. So you
mhm.
should know. But he actually did it. And I really had to humble myself and to hold my tongue. I
Did
had
you
to
guys go to
hold my tongue.
counseling afterwards?
We kind of, sort of.
See
Okay,
what
so
had happened was
kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what happened
What
was
happened was like I was the one that was, and see, remember I told you about my mouth, right? And although he said he probably felt that he deserved what he was getting from me, but I responded wrong, right? So I will always use divorce. I was like, oh, I'm finna divorce you. I got the papers. and everything. I used to say all kind of stuff. I take it down, but it wasn't no divorce papers in the house at all. I was just rambling on.
Running your mouth.
Yeah. So I was like, I was brought up in the church, and we haven't really been married that long. So to keep these church folks from doing all this talking, yada yada yada, okay, let's go to marriage counseling. So he was the type like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose you. I want my marriage, that type of thing. So he was like, okay, if you want to go to marriage counseling, let's go to marriage counseling. And go ahead. Tell him how you act. Tell him how you showed your behind at the marriage counseling. But go ahead.
He said yes, but when he got there, it was a different story. I'm sure this is gonna be good. I'm sure when he got there, he said yes, but when he got there, it was a different story, huh?
Listen,
No, it was heated
it
fellowship.
was
It
yeah.
was heated fellowship.
What?
No,
It,
first of all,
What's a heated fellowship?
it was heated. It was heated fellowship. The counselor said something to me that really ticked me off, and I took my phone and threw it across the whole room, and it hit the wall and it cracked.
it broke into no, it didn't crack. It broke into pieces, right? So
Oh,
this was like what, maybe like session 2. We all the way on Miami Beach. Now I was like, because I didn't want to go to nobody that we didn't know. I mean, nobody we knew. We
right.
wanted somebody totally different. We went to it was white counselor. So I think it was Jewish, right?
Yeah.
So here we are at this like Catholic church or something, and the white guy in there asking questions and all of this stuff. So we're giving the answer, and everything he asked, he was like, I said, sir, I told him that. Well, did your wife tell you that? Yes, she did. Did your wife that? Yes, she did. Well, why you this and this? And he started all, it started coming up. It started that
It
little
manifested.
devil. Ooh, I mean, and when that thing came out, he showed his butt. You hear me?
Yeah.
The man
It
said, okay.
manifested.
Yeah, what? Total activation. So the counselor looked at me. He said, okay, you don't have to come back anymore. I will deal with him one on one. I said,
Okay.
I said, okay, all right. So go ahead, Eddie. I just want to really be descriptive of how he was.
I mean, it's a book. It's a book. But what happened was, and I think that God really intervened on my behalf was, even in the midst of that heated conversation, I jumped in my car and I was 38 hot. I was pissed off. I was pissed off, and I drove, and the reason why I feel that God intervened was after that conversation, after what happened at the marriage council and stuff like that, I found myself pulling up into a church. I went to church that night.
Yeah, but look, it was a hand reader, palm reader right next to the church. So when he turned in to the church parking lot, I'm like following him from afar. I said, Lord
I
Jesus,
know he ain't going.
this man finna go to mighty God. What are you
I
doing?
didn't, I didn't
Yeah,
go to
but
the
thank
palm
God,
reader.
thank God,
I
it
went
was
to the
false alarm,
church.
false alarm. He did go to the church. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Carry on.
Did you think about it, or were you really going to the church?
No, I was going to the church. I was
No,
going to the
yeah,
church.
it was just they were so close
It was so close
together
together.
as far as in the parking lot. I thought from where I was because I was following him afar off.
Oh, cause
Like,
you
'cause I'm
guys
like,
was in
what?
separate cars.
Two
Right.
separate
So I
cars.
Okay,
was
I
like,
got
where
it.
the heck is he going?
Okay. Uh-huh.
So that type of thing. And when he turned, I was like, oh my God, this man finna go to the palm reader. But it was he did go to a church.
And so that's when you saying God intervened for you because he led you to the church?
I could have did everything else. I could. I remember one point in time. I think God always intervened on our behalf in my marriage. From that point to also when she called herself, put me out one night, put all my stuff in the garbage bags, and and, and tore up the room, just getting all my clothes out the house.
Yeah, yeah,
God,
I had read that part right there. I
yeah,
had read.
God intervened on that night as well because, like
Mhm.
you said, don't leave home. So I didn't leave home, but I did left the house. But I went outside and got in my van and let my seat back and went to sleep
Mhm.
because I knew at any given moment I could have drove down 27th Avenue, 79th Street, or whatever, and found myself caught up in something that I don't need to be caught up in.
Mhm. This
So,
is so true, and that is real. This is why I tell people the worst thing you can do is jump in your car and go somewhere, especially if you're hanging out with your single friends or and they whisper something in your ear, or the enemy will make somebody who you thought about or used to date cross your path, and next thing you know, you don't destroyed your whole life
Yeah,
off of a temporary situation.
and you know something else, I
absolutely.
found out what one of my biggest problems was. I never had anyone that can hold me accountable.
Mighty God.
Mm,
I didn't really have a friend who I can go to and really talk to and be straight up with them and tell them what's going on with me. Not what's going on with my marriage, but what's going on with me and
mhm.
hold me accountable of everything that I'm going through or what I'm thinking of or what I'm about to do. So
Yeah,
sometimes I
that's
think you gotta have that person that you can really go to who you
mhm.
feel confident in, who you can sit down and talk with them and they can tell you that you're right and tell you that you're wrong and you still be friends.
Hmm. That's important. This is why the Bible said, "Don't be unequally yoked." And I think we think only time we should be concerned about unequally yoked is when we are getting married or in a relationship with somebody. But it's about friendship. It's about a business partnership. It's about all of those things. If you and someone is not walking together, how can you agree? And so often when we're not yoked up with the right type of friends, they are persuade us or paint a picture to make us second guess what God has called us to or
Absolutely.
called us for. So this is why it's so important to make sure you have the right friends. I credit my friends as well as my family. Those times when I wanted to leave my husband, I credit them because they was godly people. And so they didn't, they didn't size up with my mess. They didn't say, "Oh yeah, you're right, girl. I don't blame you." They didn't do that. They just would always say, "Did God tell you that?" Or "He's a good man." And even though I used to hate to hear that he was a good man because it felt like everybody was always on his side and nobody never listened to me. But at the same time, I'm so grateful that I had friends that knew the Lord and not those that was in the streets trying to deter me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
that is extremely important. So you guys have a radio show. Tell the people about the radio show and what's the topics as far as what is it that the purpose of the I mean the radio show. I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh, so how the radio show got started? It started back in 2011. 2011, and it was birthed through Night of Passion. One of the announcers saw me advertising it on social media, and he was like, "Hey, I want you all to come in." But prior to all of that happening, I told Eddie, I said, "Eddie, I had a dream and we were on the radio." And I said, "No, I had a dream and the Lord spoke radio and I woke up." That's what happened. And I was sharing it with him and my son in the car because nobody around us, nobody in our family ever was on radio or anything media.
Hmm.
So to hear that, they just started laughing like, "Okay, so what doing what on the radio?" Very casually, like, "Child, please."
Hmm.
And then days later, that's when the announcer contacted me through social media. And he was like, "Hey, I see what you're doing. I think this is great. No one else is doing it. Come on in to advertise." So it was basically supposed to be an advertisement type of meeting,
Hmm.
where he introduced us to another couple that was there that already had a radio program, and we actually had an opportunity to speak on their
Platform.
platform right then and there. So it was just, I tell you, it was just all God ordained because what God spoke to me, it was just boom, manifested right then and there, through Night of Passion, which is a prom night for married couples. So we air every second Saturday of the month, and we've been on faithfully and loyal to AM 1490 WMBM for 11 years. So this year in July will make 12 years. 12
Okay.
years strong.
Go ahead.
And we talk about all topics. We actually first started off with a lot of topics dealing with marriage, love, relationship, and then we went on to bringing others in that needed a start, needed the exposure. We brought in authors, artists, that had projects out, because I said, God, if you gave us a chance to be exposed to the world,
Mhm.
let us give back to somebody
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And
else.
let me ask you a question. Hopefully you come back in. I got a chance to experience the Night of Passion. Tell me how the Night of Passion got started and how do you see it in the future to come?
I was actually invited to another event. So the young lady who invited me, she was like, Desiree, I have an extra ticket. And if anybody got clothes to wear, right, like in the next 2 hours, it's you. Can you go? And I said yes. And I just felt that that was all intentional as well. So I went to the event. I'm at the event. I'm sitting there, and I tell you no lie. I don't know if you call it a vision, or epiphany, or whatever the case may be. But I was sitting there and I saw Night of Passion. I said, oh, I can do this with couples. And it was like I just saw the whole thing unfold. So I come home, and now me and Eddie, we kind of, we doing kind of good now. We on that like steady roll. It still was a little rocky, but not how it has been, right?
Mhm.
So I was sharing with Eddie what the Lord showed me, and he automatically said, "Nope, we ain't finna do it." I said, to be nothing churchy. I don't want it to be nothing what they expect, because we know that they're dealing with so much in the church with marriages. And I
Right.
said, I don't want their mind conditioned, because even if they're saying, oh, we're going to have a ball, it turned into a prayer breakfast or something else or
Somebody
something,
got to lay hands on somebody and start
it's going to
praying.
be real churchy. So I
Mhm.
was like, God also used practical things. So I
Mhm.
said, I don't want any of that. This is what I see. And I gave it to him, and he was like, nope. Where we gonna get the money from? Where we gonna get this? How we gonna do that? I said, I don't know. And he's so analytical. You got to show him numbers. You got to. He's just that way. So and my feelings were so hurt. We got into a big argument over it, and it was just like, forget it, forget it. And later that year, we had a prayer breakfast, because we would do a family prayer breakfast every year. And it was coming up to the prayer breakfast time. And we did the prayer breakfast at Don Shula's. And I prayed about it. I prayed about what God had showed me. And I was like, God, if it's for us to do this, show it to my husband. We went to the prayer breakfast, and everything went, oh my gosh, it was a powerful move. When we got home that evening, he said, we're doing Not a Passion,
Mhm.
because we already had the name. We came up with the name and everything. He said, we're going to do Not a Passion. It was like no questions asked. And from that point on, it was on radio, we was moving, and boom.
I love the Night of Passion. I think it's so important for Christian couples to get together and be able to enjoy life and see, just because we live for Christ don't mean that we can't love on each other, don't mean that we can't have a good time. It's so much sexual frustration in the church. This is why this divorce is so high in the kingdom.
Exactly.
And so we thinking that we got to come to bed and shana na na, and we don't get that opportunity to love on each other, or we don't even get a chance to see a great example of what it is to love on your mate. And so even though the Night of Passion was none of that, it was really clean. You did games that get you to think about how you love your mate. We danced, we had great food, the music was great. And I just think it's just something that a lot of people should experience, because a lot of time you get married, especially if you've been married so many years, all you do is go to work. If you're a Christian, you go to work, you go to church, you go to Bible study, you go home, you go to work, you go to Bible study, you go to an event, you go to an anniversary, but you don't never really understand how it is to how important it is to keep loving on each other. It's
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
a thank you for that Night of Passion. My husband and I had a great time. I put on my
You're
husband's
welcome.
dress
You're
and
welcome.
I had a ball, and I'll be there the next time if I'm in town. But how important is date nights for you guys?
Wait, say that again.
How important is date nights for you guys?
It's you want to answer that?
I mean, it's very,
Very
it's
important.
very important,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. And what people have to realize, it does not have to be a financial loss, from just walking on the beach, just walking down the street, maybe even sitting at Burger King and just being able to talk. Because I think one of the hardest problem is when you're home, everything happens at home, from
Mhm.
the arguments to
Bill.
the bills coming in the
Piled up.
mail. Everything happens. So sometimes you just have to get away,
Mhm.
and leave the bills behind, leave
Mhm.
children behind, leave the phones behind, and just be able to recommit to one another. Because
Mhm.
every day it's a struggle being married, but it's a great thing being married. But you also have to recommit to each other at least once a week, I believe.
Yeah. As
Mhm.
often, I believe, as often as possible, as much as needed, and a lot of times, like Eddie said, life itself would just consume you. Work, dealing with other people and other
Yeah.
things, the children, all of those things will consume you. So we have to make time for each other.
Yeah, and I,
That's
and
very
I think
important.
I think it's not really about the date night. It's about really quality time.
Mhm.
When you really have that time, is it quality? Because
Oh,
we,
okay.
we could be on a date and you be on the phone and you on your phone, and I'm on my phone, and we're sitting there eating and nobody talking, and we talking,
Mhm.
so we just had a date night. So for us, it's really about finding that quality time that we can spend with no outside sources that's bothering us.
Influence.
It's just me and her. So it
Yeah.
could be anywhere for us.
Yeah, I like that. And that's so important. You just need to disconnect and so you can be focused on one another. That is awesome. Hey, you guys, I want to thank you guys for staying here. Thank you for coming. And before we leave, I want to ask you guys a few questions. But before I ask you a couple questions, I want you to tell the people how they can find you, how they can follow you, and your social media information.
Yes, thank you once again for inviting us on. I believe that this was great conversation that we had on tonight. And if you all want to follow Real Love Ministries, and I think you should, I know you should. And if you haven't been, I don't know why, but you could do it. If you're on Facebook, is Real Love Ministries. Real Love Ministries. And our website is www.realloveministriesmiami.org. So you can follow us, you can hit us up, you can ask questions, and we will definitely get back with you.
Okay, and that's you have a social. I'm sorry, you have IG and Facebook as well besides
I
your
have I
website.
have IG. We have our personal IGs, but you can also reach us there. Is the underscore hall underscore empire.
Okay. 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 Well, we hope that this make a difference. I hope you guys understand that marriage is what you put in it. Marriage, people like to say marriage is hard. Marriage is perfect. But it's hard if you're not willing to do the work that need to be done
Exactly.
to bring it
Exactly.
together. So I want to ask you a question. Who danced the best? Eddie.
I am not a dancer at all.
I kind of seen him take. I asked that question because I seen him in action. I was like, well, okay then, all right then, okay.
Listen,
Who's the
She
best dressed?
she can play the tambourine, the Fashion Nova.
Okay.
I don't know. You got
No,
skill.
Fashion Nova.
Okay, so you say him, he say you.
Yeah, because that was one of the things that attracted me. He was very debonair about his look. He was a stickler about how he looked. So
Who's the funniest?
I am.
Most
Who
definitely.
apologized first?
Yeah, me.
Who's the best cook?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Who said I love you first?
Me.
He did.
Okay. That's what matter. We can stop now. All right.
He did.
All right, you guys. Thank you again for sharing the platform with me. I greatly appreciate it. I pray that God continue to bless your union as well as your ministry,
Thank
and more
you.
people come and follow you. I bless you that God open the doors of heaven and pour out windows, pour out blessing that you have no room to receive. I bless you that God open the doors and people will get to know you guys as well as your ministry from the north, the west, the south, and the east, and that everything you do will bring God glory. So, with
Amen.
that being said, everybody, thank you for following the Be True to You Talk Show. You can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Be True to You Talk Show. We're here every Monday at 7 p.m. That's right. Every Monday at 7 p.m. I can't wait to see what God is doing next. Continue to follow, continue to like. Oh, yeah. And don't forget to share. This is your girl, Angela, to be true to you. Everything you do, always be true to you. I love you and I mean it. Bye. Be true to you is not about being perfect. It's about being authentic. It's about being okay with the good, bad, and ugly. To accept those things about ourselves that we can't change, and those things that need to be changed, we put on our big girl panties and do the work. Be true to you is about being real with God, being real with self, so we can be true to you. Be true to you is not about comparing